Hello, everyone. Hopefully, all is well. Today, we're going to use trig ratios to find the missing sides of right triangles or the missing angles of right triangle. If we want to find the missing sides of right triangle, we're going to either use the ratio sine, cosine, or tangent. And what does the sine represent? Well, here's our right triangle. So the sine is going to represent the opposite side of the angle theta over the hypotenuse. So here we have the angle theta, y is the opposite side, and across from the right angle is going to be the hypotenuse. So sine is going to be the opposite side of the hypotenuse. The cosine is going to be the adjacent side, which is x over the hypotenuse. And then our tangent is going to be the opposite side over the adjacent side. And if we want to find missing angles, then we're going to use the inverse function. So in order to find the missing angles, we're either going to use sine inverse, cosine inverse, or tangent inverse. So this is the sine inverse of the opposite side over the hypotenuse, cosine inverse of the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and lastly, we have the tangent inverse, the opposite side over the adjacent side. So please take these notes down. This left-hand side is only when we're trying to find the missing side of a right triangle. The right-hand side is going to be only when we're looking for the missing angle of a right triangle. So let's look at our example. Here we're going to find a missing angle and two missing sides, and the hypotenuse is also considered to be a side. So let's first find this side x. So the angle that they give us is 60 degrees. So we have this angle which is 60 degrees, and this side we have is 3 feet. In order to find x, well, let's just go to 60 degrees. Well, what is x in relationship to 60 degrees? It's going to be the opposite side. And so I have the opposite side, and 3 feet is going to be the adjacent side. So since I'm trying to find, since they're giving me opposite and adjacent, I know I'm going to have to use the tangent of whatever my theta is. And in this case, that's 60 degrees. So here I have the tangent of 60 over my opposite side, which is just x, which is the value that I'm looking for, over 3. So I have this proportion set up, and so I can go ahead and cross multiply here, because basically this is just tangent of 60 over 1. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So multiply these both sides by 3. Well, these 3's are going to cancel out. So as you can see, I get x is equal to 3 times the tangent of 30. Once I put the tangent of 30 into my calculator and multiply it by 3, I am going to get 5.2 feet. All right, so this is the value of x. X is 5.2. Now let's find the value of y. So for y, we're going to still have 60 degrees, and we have the adjacent side still, but this time we're looking for the hypotenuse. So which one used the adjacent and the hypotenuse? Well, that's going to be cosine. So we need to use cosine to find the value of y in this case. So we have the cosine of the angle, which is 60 degrees, and that's going to be 3 over y. And so this time we need to get y by itself. Here we needed to get x by itself. So in order to get y by itself, we're going to cross multiply both sides by y. So we get y here and y here, but these y's are going to cancel out, leaving us with y times the cosine of 60 is equal to 3. Now I want to get y by myself, so since this is multiplication, I'm going to have to divide both sides by the cosine of 60. So that's how I get y is equal to 3 divided by the cosine of 60, which is going to be equal to 6. So we found the two missing sides of this right triangle, x and y. Next, we want to find out what this missing angle is. And since we're trying to find a missing angle, we know we're going to have to use an inverse function in order to do that. So let's see which inverse function is that we're going to use to do this. Now remember, they gave us this side was 6. We found out that, I'm sorry, it was 3. We found out the hypotenuse was 6, and we found out that this value here was 5.2. So we want to find theta. Now theta is this angle right here, and there's multiple ways that we can do this, but I'm going to go ahead and use the sine, because the sine is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I am going to go, remember we have to use the sine inverse. I know I said sine, but we have to use the sine inverse because we're trying to find the angle. And when we're looking for missing angles, we have to use one of these inverse functions. So I chose the one which is the opposite over the hypotenuse, so that's sine inverse. And so if you can see here, we have our theta is equal to the sine inverse, the opposite side of the hypotenuse, and so that's going to be equal to 30 degrees. Your calculator will go ahead and calculate these for you, so you don't have to worry about doing that by hand. All right, so let's go to our next example here. We have a plane traveled 425 miles from Dallas in a direction 54 degrees northeast as shown below. And this question is actually wanting us to find what is the height of the plane. So this is the plane right here. And so we want to know how the plane is above the ground. So that's going to be this distance x here. Now they gave us this angle right here. Just this portion of the angle was 54 degrees. Now we have a vertical line and a horizontal line, so they're going to intersect and create a right angle. So I know this total angle here is 90 degrees. So if this part is 54 degrees and this other angle has to be 26 degrees because they're going to be complementary. And so if you look here, I know this angle here is 60 degrees. I'm sorry, 26 degrees. And I'm looking for the opposite side. So I have the opposite side in the hypotenuse. Well, what use opposite and hypotenuse? Well, that's sine. And since it's a missing side, I know I'm going to have to use the regular sine, not the sine inverse. So I know that I'm going to have the sine of 26 is equal to x over 425, because 425 miles is going to be the hypotenuse. And so I can just multiply both sides by 425 and just plug this into my calculator. And I can, once you calculate that, you can see that the height of the plane is 186 miles. All right, so I know that I'm moving kind of fast, but please stop the video if you have any questions. Trying to keep the videos under 15 minutes. The last topic that we're going to talk about is the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. So the angle of elevation is going to be when you're looking up toward an object, and the angle of depression is going to be looking when you're looking down toward an object. So this is you looking up, or this is you looking downward. All right, so let's look here. We have Wolf laying on the ground. So Wolf is here laying on the ground. He's 10 meters away from the base of the tree, and he's looking up at the top of the tree. So the object that he's looking at is looking upward. So we know that this is going to have to be an angle of elevation. And so it's given that the angle of elevation is 39 degrees. So the question is actually want to find what's the height of the tree. So that's going to be this distance here. Now, the height of a tree is going to be a missing side. So we know we're either going to have to use sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, in this case, this is my angle. This is the adjacent side, which is 10 meters. And x is going to be the opposite side. So I know I have to use tangent. So we can go ahead and set up our proportion. We have the tangent of 39, which is the angle, which is given, is equal to the opposite side, which is x. We don't know, it's the unknown, over 10, which is the side that we do know. And so we can go ahead and multiply both sides by 10. So we know x is equal to 10 times the tangent of 39. And once you plug that into your calculator, you're going to get 8 meters. All right, so let's look at our last example here. This is example was for the angle of elevation. The last example is going to be for the angle of depression. So here we have a boat, and I know my boat looks a little not like a boat, but anyway, this is my boat. and the boat is, from the boat, we have a rope that's tied to some gold. And so this is my boat. So the boat is on water, so everything below it is, this is representing the sea. So it's a boat, it's on the sea. And so the boat is 50 feet above sea level. So that means this distance right here is 50 feet. And then it's tied to a rope that is 70 feet long. And so we want to find we actually want to find the angle of depression in this case. That's going to be this angle right here. So just imagine yourself looking down from here at this box of gold. So this is the angle of depression. And so I went ahead and wrote the triangle that can be represented by this scenario. So this is my angle of depression. This is the 50 feet, how far above the sea floor the boat is. And then the distance from the rope from the boat was 70 feet. So that's what we get. So since we want to find an angle, you know we're going to have to use either the sine inverse, cosine inverse, or the tangent inverse. Well, let's look here. We have my angle, and I just called it x. 50 is opposite of my angle, and 70 is actually across from this right angle here, so I know that's my hypotenuse. So I have the opposite side in the hypotenuse, so I know I'm going to have to use sine inverse. So in order to find x, I'm going to do the sine inverse of 50 over 70, and that's going to go ahead and give me 45 degrees, 45.58 degrees once I plug that into my calculator. So that is the last example that we are going to look at. Please know that I am here to answer any questions that you have. You can always email me. If you do not have a graphing calculator at your home, you can go to Google and just type in Desmos calculator. That's going to be DESMO calculator. And it'll go ahead and pull up a calculator where you can do your sine inverse, your tangent inverse, or you can download just some of the calculators, the scientific calculators from your app store for free with your parents' permission. And you can do that. If all else fail and you are not able to do any of that, please just let me know, and I can give you some further instructions on how to complete this task. All right, hopefully everything is well with you. This is our third video lesson, and of course we're going to have a short little quiz that you will also need to take to get credit for this week. All right, thank you guys. Have a great day.